Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're going to be looking at some really cool ideas about achieving bliss and challenging traditions.
Ooh, sounds interesting.
It is, and it's all coming from an excerpt of OSHSMD07 Shunya Samadhi 07 Amarrier. Now I know that sounds a bit cryptic,
It does.
but I promise the ideas are anything but. It asks things like, is all tradition bad? Can you inherit wisdom? What does chopping onions have to do with spiritual enlightenment?
Okay, you've definitely got me curious. Let's dive in.
So the source starts off by challenging this idea that all traditions are good and should be followed blindly. It compares traditions that hold us back from growth to rocks blocking a path.
Oh, that's a good analogy.
Yeah.
I can see how that applies to our lives.
Yeah.
We inherit traditions sometimes without even thinking about why we do them.
Exactly. And the source isn't saying all traditions are bad, but we should look at them critically. Are they helping us or just weighing us down?
Like rocks.
Yeah, exactly like rocks.
Huh.
And to make this point, the source uses a story about King Mahmud and a stone. Have you heard this one?
I don't think so. Tell me more.
Okay, so King Mahmud puts this big stone right in the middle of a busy road. Everyone just assumes there's a reason for it, right?
Yeah, makes sense. People always look for meaning, especially when a king does something.
But here's the thing. The stone stayed there for 20 years. People just went around it. No one questioned why it was even there. Even after King Mahmud died, no one touched the stone.
Wow, that's a powerful image of how following tradition can become so ingrained, even if it seems illogical.
Right. And the source connects this to another story, this time a Sufi tale about a mystic chopping onions and crying. Now, people saw him crying but didn't ask why. They just assumed the worst.
What happened?
Well, rumors started that there was a plague on that street.
Wait, really? Because of some crying guy?
Yep, people actually fled their homes scared of this plague that didn't even exist, all because they didn't stop to ask what was really going on.
So both these stories are saying that blindly following tradition can lead to some pretty crazy outcomes.
Exactly. The source isn't saying to reject all traditions, but to be more questioning. Look at things critically. Ask yourself, does this belief or practice actually have a purpose in my life?
Don't just blindly accept things. Seek understanding.
Right. And this idea of questioning leads us to the source's exploration of bliss. Specifically, it talks about two paths to achieving it: intensity and relaxation. It seems kind of contradictory at first.
It does, yeah. They seem like opposites. How can both lead to bliss?
Exactly. That's what we're going to unpack. So let's start with intense living. What does that mean according to the source?
Well, it describes intense living as being totally present and committed to each moment. It's about engaging with life fully, whether you're working, talking, or even just eating.
So it's not about like extreme activities or anything. It's more about the approach.
Yeah, exactly. It's about being mindful and intentional in everything you do. Even the little things. To illustrate this, it uses a pretty intense story about two Rajput brothers.
Oh, yeah. I think I've heard of this one, but go on.
These brothers were fierce warriors and so committed to living in the present moment that they chose to die by each other's swords. Now, obviously, the source isn't saying we should all do that.
Yeah, of course not.
But it uses this story as a metaphor for the intensity of being fully present without fear or hesitation. Just completely living in the moment.
Wow, that's a strong image. Well, I don't think most of us will go that far. It does make you think about being more present in our own experiences.
Now, the source also talks about another path to bliss: relaxation. And this isn't just about, lounging on a beach or watching TV. It's about cultivating a deep inner peace and stillness.
So how do you achieve that kind of relaxation in our busy modern lives?
Well, it gives the example of Alexander the Great meeting Diogenes, the philosopher who famously lived in a barrel.
Oh, yeah, I remember him. He had nothing but seemed totally content.
Exactly. He had no possessions, but possessed this unshakable inner peace. Alexander was baffled because he had conquered empires and amassed so much wealth, but still felt this lack.
So it's saying that real peace comes from within, not from external things.
Exactly. True contentment, a type of bliss that comes from within.
So we have these two seemingly opposite paths to bliss: intense living and complete relaxation. It's like, how can we balance both in our daily lives?
That's a great question, and one we'll explore further in the next part of our deep dive. Stay tuned.
Welcome back. I've been thinking about that question you asked. How do we balance intensity and relaxation in our pursuit of bliss? It seems especially hard in today's world with everything going on.
You're right. It is a challenge. And the source actually addresses this. It suggests that this idea we have about life being full of suffering that actually gets in the way of experiencing bliss.
Yeah, it's like we're taught that happiness is something we have to earn, not something that's already within us.
Right. And the source actually points to religious leaders and institutions as sometimes perpetuating this idea.
Really? How so?
Well, think about it. If you're told the world is full of suffering, you're going to want to escape that suffering. You might turn to rituals or doctrines or the promise of something better after death. And who often controls those things?
Ah, I see. Religious leaders and institutions. By emphasizing the negative, they create a need for their solutions.
Exactly. The source is saying that focusing on what's wrong with the world or ourselves robs us of joy in the present. It also makes it hard to feel gratitude.
You can't appreciate what you have when you're always focused on what's missing.
Right. And the source even says that this lack of gratitude creates a separation between us and the divine, the source of all that beauty and wonder.
So it's not about denying that suffering exists, but about recognizing that there's also a lot of good in the world.
And by focusing on the good, you can cultivate a sense of connection and fulfillment.
This brings us back to intensity and relaxation. The source seems to be saying that by embracing both, we can truly experience life in all its fullness.
Yeah, through intensity, we engage with life fully with passion and purpose. And through relaxation, we let go of tension and become open to the beauty around us.
It's like acknowledging that both the highs and the lows are part of the journey.
And this applies to all aspects of life, even something as simple as work.
Oh, you mean how people see work as something to just get through?
Exactly. The source challenges that. It says work can actually be a source of joy and fulfillment.
Ugh. But how?
Well, it uses this example of a weaver who's so devoted to his craft that it becomes a form of meditation.
He's not just working. He's fully present in each moment, finding meaning in every thread.
And that's where relaxation comes in. It's not about avoiding work, but about allowing yourself to truly rest so you can come back to it with renewed energy.
So work and rest aren't opposites. They're two sides of the same coin.
Right. And this reminds me of another story from the source about King Akbar and a woman he meets while praying.
Okay, what happened?
So Akbar is deep in prayer in the forest when this woman rushes by, totally lost in her own thoughts. She accidentally steps on his prayer rug and knocks him over.
Oh no, I bet he wasn't happy about that.
Yeah, he was furious. He felt disrespected, especially being the king.
It's funny how attached we can get to those titles and positions.
Right. But anyway, Akbar chases after the woman demanding an explanation,
Mm.
and she completely bewildered, said she didn't even see him because she was so focused on going to meet her lover.
She was so excited to see her beloved that everything else just disappeared.
And that's the point the source is making, the power of being fully present in the moment. This woman wasn't trying to disrespect the king. She was just completely absorbed in her own experience.
So true intensity can sometimes manifest in unexpected ways.
I think it also shows that when we're truly engaged in something, we enter a state of flow. It's like effortless effort.
And in that state, the separation between work and rest, effort, and surrender disappears.
Exactly. You're just being fully and completely in each moment.
This deep dive has been so insightful. I'm really starting to understand this idea of bliss and tradition. But how do we maintain this state of flow, this balance between intensity and relaxation in our busy modern world?
That's a great question. And it's something we'll delve into in the next part of our deep dive. We'll look at some practical tips from the source on how to cultivate a more mindful and joyful way of life.
Okay, so we've talked about the illusion of tradition and this idea of embracing both intensity and relaxation to experience bliss. But as you mentioned, it can be hard to maintain that balance, especially with all the distractions in modern life.
You're right. The source actually compares modern life to a busy marketplace, surrounded by all these sights and sounds and smells.
Yeah, I get that. It's exciting, but also kind of overwhelming. Like you can't really focus on anything because there's always something else grabbing your attention.
And the source argues that all this stimulation actually dulls our senses.
Oh, that's interesting. How so?
Well, we get so used to the noise and chaos that we lose the ability to appreciate the little things. The subtle beauty that's all around us.
It's like we're drowning in information and distractions.
Exactly. And the source connects this to our struggle with experiencing intensity and relaxation.
Because when you're constantly bombarded with stuff, it's hard to be present in the moment.
Right. You can't really tune into your inner world when there's so much going on outside. And the source suggests a solution to this. Mindfulness.
Mindfulness. Okay, I've heard that word a lot, but what does it actually mean?
Well, the source describes it as bringing awareness to everything you do. paying attention to your thoughts, your emotions, your physical sensations, and the world around you without judgment.
So it's not about like clearing your mind completely.
No, it's more about noticing what's happening within you and around you, just observing without getting swept away by it.
Okay, I think I understand. And how does mindfulness help with intensity and relaxation?
Well, when you're more mindful, you're less likely to get caught up in distractions. You're more anchored in the present moment.
Ah, I see. So you can actually appreciate the subtle joys and beauty that you might normally miss.
Exactly, like the warmth of the sun or the taste of your coffee. Those everyday things become sources of joy when you experience them mindfully.
And I imagine that by being more present, you also bring more intention and passion to your work, your relationships, all those things that require intensity.
Absolutely. And on the flip side, mindfulness also helps with relaxation. When you become aware of tension in your body or worries in your mind, you can choose to let them go.
So mindfulness is like a tool for dealing with the ups and downs of life.
Exactly. It helps you stay grounded in the present moment, whether you're feeling happy or sad, excited or exhausted.
I like that. And the source provides some ways to cultivate mindfulness, right?
Yeah, things like focusing on your breathtaking mindful walks or just sitting in silence and observing your thoughts and feelings.
Those are all pretty simple things that anyone can do.
Exactly. It's about making a conscious choice to be present.
This all ties back to the source's message about tradition, too. It's not about rejecting all traditions, but approaching them mindfully.
Right. You need to ask yourself, is this tradition actually benefiting me, or is it just something I do out of habit?
Some traditions can be really valuable, but others might be outdated.
It's about choosing the traditions that align with your values and letting go of the ones that don't.
It's about taking control of your own journey.
And ultimately, the source reminds us that bliss isn't something we have to chase. It's already present in our lives.
It's about appreciating the beauty in the simple things, like breathing or feeling your body or connecting with nature.
And feeling gratitude for all that we have.
Wow, this deep dive has been incredible. We've covered so much. The illusion of tradition, the nature of bliss, the importance of living in the present moment, and the power of mindfulness.
We hope you found it insightful.
And that's it for this episode. Thanks for joining us.
Please like, share and subscribe.